So let's look at this example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. Allah, He is the one who guides everything and everyone in the heavens and the earth. And in the earth is also the human being, mankind, the children of Adam alayhi salam, who have been sent to this earth for a test. That what do they do? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His favor, He has also sent them guidance. He has also instructed them. How has He sent guidance to these people? In the form of Qur'an, in the form of knowledge, in the form of His messengers. So the example of His light, meaning the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows people with. What is the example of that guidance? The example of that is kamishkatin. It is like a niche. The niche is the container of guidance. It is that which contains guidance within it. And it refers to the heart, the chest of the believer. Because as I mentioned to you, according to Ibn Mas'ud, مَثَلُ نُورِهِ, it refers to the nur of the believer. فِي قَلْبِ الْمُؤْمِنِ, in the heart of the believer. So mishkat refers to the container of guidance, where guidance is, which is in the chest of the believer. Because when a person accepts guidance, when a person accepts the instruction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, where is that acceptance? Where is that faith? Where is that iman? It is in the heart. The Prophet ﷺ said, beware, in the body there is a piece of flesh, and if it is sound, the entire body is sound. And if it is corrupt, then the entire body is corrupt. And behold, what is it? It is the heart. So the heart is where faith is. The heart is where iman is. The heart is where guidance is. So the central point to contain guidance is the heart of the believer. And where is this heart? The heart is in the chest. The heart is in the mishkat. And if you look at it, the shape of the chest cavity is very similar to the shape of a niche. If you look at it, you just imagine the chest cavity where the lungs are, it looks just like a niche. And in the center is the heart, which is pumping blood. So similarly is the niche, the chest of the believer, which contains guidance, but where is it? It's actually in the heart. The heart is where iman is. So kamishkatin fiha misbah. And what does the misbah refer to? The heart in which is iman. The lamp. What is that lamp? What is that bright light? What is that radiance? It is iman. It is faith. Where is that? It is in the heart. And al-misbahu, this iman, it is fi zujaja, in a glass case. So the misbah, the heart, is what contains iman. And this iman is where? Fi zujaja, in a glass case. Now what does this glass case refer to? If you look at it, this glass case, what is it doing? It is reflecting the light even further. It is protecting the light. It is reflecting the light. It is making it even more bright. So yes, the believer, he has iman in his heart. But there is something that reflects that iman. There is something that glows that iman, that increases that iman, that makes it spread. And what is that? It can be understood in several ways. It can be understood as righteous company. Because righteous company, what does it do to the believer? It protects his iman. It protects his piety. Because if a person surrounds himself with friends who are sinful, with friends who don't care about the hudud of Allah, then what is going to happen? Is his light going to continue to radiate, or is it going to get affected? Is it going to get clouded? It's going to get clouded. So this glass, it can be understood as righteous company. It can be understood as the environment that the person is in. It can be understood as knowledge that he surrounds himself with. So al-misbahu, this iman, it is in the case of zujaja. It is in the case of a glass which protects, which increases, which brightens this faith that the believer has. So it is the knowledge, it is righteous company, it is the good environment that the believer is in. Al-misbahu fi zujaja. And az-zujajatu ka'annaha kawkabun durriyun. That this glass case is as though it is bright, like a star, like a pearl. Because you see, a believer, he does not keep the iman that he has in his heart only. It is only natural that when something is in the heart of a person, it's going to come out. It's going to be reflected in his actions. It's going to affect the people who are around him. Yes, the people around you affect you. But what is inside of you is also going to affect the people who are around you. This is only natural. People affect you, you affect people. So the believer, he does not just keep this light to himself, but rather it is reflected in his actions. It affects the people who are around him. الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري. And the source of this light, the source of this iman, what is it being fueled by? يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة. What does this oil refer to? What does this blessed tree, this neither eastern nor western, out of this world tree and its oil refer to? It refers to the knowledge, the revelation, the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to people. How? Through wahi. And if you look at it, this concept is very, very important to understand. If you have a lamp, in order to burn it, what do you need? You need fuel. You need to put the oil in. If you put a little bit of oil, what's going to happen? The lamp is going to burn for some time only. Why? Because the oil is going to be consumed. In order to keep the light burning, what do you need to do? You need to keep refueling. You need to keep adding the oil. So, يُوقَدُ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ زَيْتُونَةٍ. This is what? This is knowledge which the believer continues to learn. And as he continues to learn every single day, what happens? His light increases. His light continues. Because what is it that affects the flame? It's the oil. Right? It's the oil that affects the flame. What happens to the hypocrite? What did we learn earlier? That every time there is light, مَشَوْ فِيهِ وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. They stand. Why? Because there is no constant nourishment. There is no push from within. And the believer, he gets his nourishment from where? From knowledge that he's constantly fueling himself with. The ilm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. So, يُوقَدُ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ زَيْتُونَةٍ لَا شَرْقِيَّةٍ وَلَا غَرْبِيَّةٍ. And this describes the kind of knowledge that the believer is continuously fueling himself with. What kind of knowledge is it? It's the knowledge that comes from Allah, from out of this world, that is pure, that is the best, that is of the highest quality, greatest authenticity. And it comes from who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you think of it, in this dunya, many types of knowledge, many types of sciences exist. Every person is coming up with his own theory. Every person is coming up with his own plan that leads to success. However, which one is the best one? Which knowledge is best? Which way is what truly leads to success? The way that has been taught to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this description that has been given over here, شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ زَيْتُونَةٍ لَا شَرْقِيَّةٍ وَلَا غَرْبِيَّةٍ. What does it mean? Out of this world, of the best quality, purest, the greatest quality. And that comes from who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ. It is as though this oil would be glowing by itself. It would radiate light by itself, even if it's not lit by fire. Again, this oil, what does it refer to? Knowledge, as I mentioned to you earlier. And this knowledge comes from who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, this knowledge in itself is so pure. This knowledge in itself is so beneficial. It is so clear. It is so evident. It is so true that it is bright in itself. Even if people do not acknowledge it. Even if people do not accept it. Even if people do not use it. Even if people do not give attention to it. The knowledge that Allah has given, it is the light. Because يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. Even if no one gives any attention to it, it is bright in itself. It is truth in itself. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, he asked Ka'b al-Ahbar about these words, that يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. And he replied that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is so obvious to the people that even if he had not said he was a prophet, his truthfulness would have shown forth. That we see that even before he received prophethood, what was he known as? As-Sadiq wal-Ameen. That his truthfulness, his good character, his honesty, his goodness, it was shining forth by itself. So, Zayt refers to knowledge, it refers to ilm. The ilm, the knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. That if this is there, if a person has this kind of knowledge, only then there is light. If a person has this kind of knowledge, only then there is Iman. Because it's possible that some other kind of fuel is put in this lamp. Is it going to be bright in itself? No. Is it going to produce any light? No. And if it is burnt, if the wick is burnt, then what's going to happen? It's going to cloud up the glass case. It's going to darken it up. It's going to darken up the niche. It's not going to be beneficial. Instead, it's going to be harmful. So we see that what sustains, what nourishes the iman of a person, the faith of the believer, what is it? It's the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. It's the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. Therefore, a person can never ever say, I have learned enough. A person can never say, I have done this, therefore I do not need to learn anymore. No. Because in order to keep the lamp burning, you need to keep refueling. This is why, when a person has read the Quran once, he needs to read it again. When a person has recited it once, he needs to recite it again. When a person has read a particular book once, he needs to read it again if he truly wants to reap the benefits of it. I remember once I was reading this book in which this person had written about how to be successful in your life. And he had said that when he was a teenager, he came across a book by one of very famous authors who had said that if you truly want to benefit from this book, then you must read it every month. And he said, religiously, I would read it every month. Religiously. And it was only then that I reaped the benefits of that book. So we see that if a person truly wants to benefit from the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, then he needs to continue to fuel his iman with that knowledge. He can never think that I have had enough. Because the moment he will think that, very soon that oil is going to be consumed. It's going to become old. He needs to refuel himself. Like for example, if you have a car, if you want your car to keep running, what do you need to do? Refueling. You can't say, I just filled the gas tank like 2 days ago, therefore I should not run out of gas. No, if you've been driving the car constantly, then you need to refuel the tank. If you want your iman to keep increasing, if you want to continue to have khushu' in your salah, if you want to continue to have that good feeling in your heart of being close to Allah, then what do you need to do? Keep fueling yourself with the knowledge. The knowledge of Qur'an, the knowledge of Sunnah. And we see that when a person has Iman in his heart, because the Iman, what does it refer to? The flame, the wick, right? It refers to the flame. Once the Iman enters the heart of a person, then what is it that increases that Iman? What is it that nourishes that Iman, that flame? It's ilm, right? It's ilm that nourishes that Iman, that increases that Iman. And this is why it is said that Iman, what happens to it? It increases and it also decreases. It does not remain the same. It increases and decreases. What increases Iman? Beneficial knowledge. And what decreases Iman? Heedlessness, ignorance, forgetfulness. That when a person learns, but he does not pay attention to it. A person learns, but he does not revise. A person learns, and then he forgets. As a result, what's going to happen? The flame is going to reduce. Sometimes it may completely extinguish. It may be at the verge of extinguishing. So just as the flame of a lamp, it increases, it decreases, similarly the Iman of a person also increases and decreases. If you want it to increase, if you want it to grow, keep fueling yourself. And the moment you will neglect it, the moment a person becomes heedless, then what happens? That Iman, it decreases. We see that once Imam Shafi'i, he complained to his teacher about his weak memory. And he said that, tell me, how can I remember what I learn? How can I retain what I learn that I don't forget it? Once I read it, I should be able to recall it. So his teacher, Waqi', he replied, Imam Shafi'i, he said this in poetry, that شَكَوْتُ إِلَى وَكِيعِ سُوءَ حِفْظِي. I complained to Waqi' about my bad memory. فَأَوْصَانِي إِلَى تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي. So he instructed me to leave sins. Why? وَقَالَ إِنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ. And he said that knowledge is light. إِنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ. Ilm is light. لَا يُؤْتَى لِعَاصِي. And it is not given to who? The sinful person. So what do we see? That sins are a means of reducing the Iman of a person. Neglect, heedlessness, what do? They affect the Iman of a person. So if a person wants to benefit from the knowledge that he is learning, if he really wants that knowledge should increase him in his Iman, it should benefit him, then what must he do? He must leave sins. Because unless and until sins are left, that knowledge, that fuel, it cannot benefit the flame. It cannot benefit Iman. This is just like if you have a beautiful lamp, a beautiful chandelier. You buy it, you set it up, you put it in your house. However, you don't connect it to the electricity source. You don't put the plug in. Is that lamp going to give any light? No. What do you need to do? You need to put the switch in. Only when you turn it on, then will there be light. And if you don't have the proper light switch, if you don't put it in properly, then what's going to happen? It's going to affect the light. Sometimes if the electricity flow is not proper, the light continues to flicker. Isn't it so? It continues to flicker. And sometimes the effect is so bad that it's possible that the lamp is going to burn out. This is why big electric machines, they have to be put on something that's going to control the incoming electricity. Because if it increases or decreases all of a sudden, it could affect the machine. Right? So, similarly, we see that Iman, it has to be continuously nourished by knowledge. And in order to benefit from knowledge, what does a person need to do? Leave sins. leave heedlessness. Otherwise, it's not going to benefit him. And we see that if a person has a lot of knowledge, worldly knowledge, but if he does not have the knowledge of Qur'an, if he does not have the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, then this light is not going to burn. This light of the heart, this light of Iman is not going to burn. Because what did we learn earlier in Surah Al-Baqarah? That وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابَ. Amongst them are illiterates who do not know the book. So, the true illiterate person in the sight of Allah is who? Someone who does not have the knowledge of the deen. Because if he does not have that knowledge, his Iman is not going to be continuously burning. It's not going to increase. It's going to decrease over time. So yes, learning about different things that are out there in the dunya, it is important. But out of all the sciences that exist, out of all the ulum that exist, what is the most essential and important knowledge? It's that of the deen. Because if a person has that, then his Iman will glow. And if he does not have that, and if he has all types of other knowledge, then his Iman is not going to glow. His flame is not going to continue to burn. So يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ نَارٌ. And as a result, نُورٌ عَلَى نُور. Light upon light. What does it mean by this? Light upon light. What does the first light refer to? The first light, نُورٌ عَلَى نُور, the Nur, it refers to Iman. And the second Nur, Nurun ala Nur, it refers to knowledge of the deen. Because when there is Iman and when there is ilm, what's going to happen? The light is going to magnify, it's going to multiply, it's going to increase even further. And if there is only Iman and no knowledge, then yes, there is going to be light, but it's not going to be that bright. It's not going to be that bright. If you have a lamp, if you have a light bulb, and you put a glass case around it, what's going to happen? It's going to glow even further. If that bulb is put in a chandelier, then it's going to glow even further. And if it's put by itself, is it going to be equal in light? No, it's not going to be the same. So if there is only Iman and no knowledge, then yes, there is light, but it's not that much. When both knowledge and Iman come together, when both Irshad and Hidayah Tawfiq, when both of them come together, then that is what makes it Nurun ala Nur. Because remember, Hidayah is of two types, right? One is Hidayah, Irshad, that a person knows what to do, what not to do, knowledge of the deen. And the other is Hidayah Tawfiq, that a person is able to act upon what he knows as well. So Iman as well as knowledge, when both of these Hidayah are there, then there is Nurun ala Nur. Many times it happens that a person learns a lot of knowledge. He learns about the Qur'an, but he's not able to implement it. He does not care to implement it. He does not have tawfiq. Is that Nur ala Nur? No, that's incomplete light. Similarly, if a person thinks that I am a believer, I don't need to learn more, what I'm doing is sufficient. Is that Nurun ala Nur? No. Nurun ala Nur happens when there is both Iman as well as knowledge. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَهْدِ اللَّهُ, Allah guides, لِنُورِهِ, to His light, مَن يَشَاءُ, whoever He wills. It only happens by the will of Allah. That a person is able to learn, and he is also able to implement. Because there are many who learn, but very few who implement. And there are many who want to learn, but they're not able to learn. Many who think that there's nothing to learn. So يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. So if a person wants to act upon the knowledge that he has learned, what should he do? What should he do? Ask Allah to give tawfiq, because it is only possible by the tawfiq of Allah. Just recently when we learned about the command of hijab, the command of covering the zina, not displaying the zina, many sisters, they spoke to me that their families, they don't allow them. Their parents are not supportive. Their husbands are not supportive. Their in-laws are not supportive. What are they supposed to do? Now in that case, what can a person do? Can you fight against your family? No. Can you cut off from them? No. After all, you're women. You're supposed to be obedient to your husbands. You're supposed to be obedient to your parents. But then at the same time, how can you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You cannot, especially when the commands are so clear. So in this case, what does a person need? Tawfiq. That, Ya Allah, you've given me nur as to what I should do. You've given me the knowledge as to what I should do. Now also give me nurun ala nur. Give me the ability to act upon this knowledge as well. So my advice to all of you sisters who are struggling because of external pressures is that you pray to Allah. You make dua to Allah. You ask Him to give you the ability to implement what you have learned. Because sometimes people face pressure from within. And sometimes people face pressure from where? Outside. And a person is only able to implement when Allah gives him tawfiq. That he's able to repel the internal pressures as well as external pressures. So يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. Allah guides to His light whomever He wills. وَيَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ لِلنَّاسِ. And Allah strikes examples for the people. Why? So that they can understand. وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٍ. And Allah is knowing of everything. He knows His creation fully. He knows His creation in detail. He knows what they need. He knows what guidance they need. He knows who wants guidance, who wants to act upon what he has learned, and who is just saying that. Allah knows. And because of that knowledge, He gives tawfiq to whomsoever He wills. We'll listen to the recitation again.
الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم.
So what have you understood from this example?
Assalamu alaikum. I was just thinking that, as sisters in the staff, whether we're group in charges or we're teachers, we have all done this course. We have gone through these verses. We've gone through, even fiqh al-salah, we've done all of that. But then sometimes when we come into class again and we're like, oh yes, this is what it says. Because even though that light is there, but it needs to be rekindled again, or it needs to be filled again. So it's something that can never stop, And so this is an ongoing thing that no matter where you are, you have to keep rekindling your light.
Exactly. And you will see that every time you rekindle, it will produce more love for that action, or you will do it with more interest, you will do it with more feeling. Because it's possible that in salah, for example, you were doing something because you know that you're supposed to do it. But when you learn that the Prophet ﷺ used to do it, all of a sudden you have this appreciation for that particular act. And you want to do it, with your heart more involved in it. So we see that when a person continues to learn, it does not just, remind him as to what he's supposed to do, but it increases his iman every time. Right? The more fuel you add, it's going to increase the flame. Isn't it so? So it's going to revive the faith. It's going to revive that spirit of that action. Because many times we are doing things without any spirit. We're doing it because we're supposed to do it. I learned about it, I'm supposed to do it, that's why I do it. But every time you revise, every time you learn again, you do it with more interest. You do it with your heart more involved in it. And we see that the light, the hidayah, the guidance, the example that has been given, it makes this light so special that it's placed in a niche, it's in a glass case, the oil is so pure, it's so special. So when this light, when this guidance is so special, you have to make yourself worthy of it. You have to make yourself worthy that Allah gives you tawfiq to accept it, to implement it. And once a person has learned it, he cannot just say, yeah, I know about it, and move on. No. This is so special that you have to give attention to it every single day, every single moment. You have to live it. You can never ignore it. You can never go back to how you were before after receiving this special, special knowledge and guidance.
Assalamu alaikum. I was just thinking that Allah said, يَهْدِي اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. So He's the one who brought me here. And we have to be worthy of it. So He just brought me here and then He's giving me. So I have to do my best to implement what I have learned.
Exactly. That if Allah has bestowed such a huge favor upon us, that out of so many people, يَهْدِ اللَّهُ لِنُورِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ, if He's giving us hidayah tawfiq, if He's giving us hidayah irshad, then what should our behavior be towards the special light, towards the special guidance? Should we not care to implement it? Should we not care to study it and revise it? Should we not care to spread it? To put in some effort to really learn it properly? Or should we just pass one day after the other day waiting for this period to end so that we can move on to something else? When Allah has bestowed such a huge favor, then we must prove ourselves worthy of it. Because only when a person implements knowledge, then it radiates, then it shines forth. Then it becomes nurun ala nur. Then it reflects, right? Kawkabun durriyun. It reflects on his actions. It spreads around him to the people who are around him as well.
Assalamu alaikum. It's so wonderful when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised us that He will make the Quran easy for us to understand, and how He explained everything. It's amazing how it makes you very interested in it, because to tell you honestly, I've read some of the textbooks, I've been in school and I don't like reading my textbooks. And with this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's explaining things and He's giving examples, and it's nowhere in other books that you can find how eloquent He narrates everything. There's no word for it. With Allah's book, you're always finding something that will draw your attention to it. It's so amazing. And this is why I'm saying, how can you not love Allah?
Assalamu alaikum. No matter that how much we learn the knowledge of this world, but this is the knowledge of deen which will go with us even in the Arzul al-Umur, which we have studied earlier. And that can only happen if we go back to this knowledge again and again and keep revising it.
We also learn from this ayat that for the olive tree to produce the purest and the best quality oil, it has to be exposed to the sun all the time. All the time. Not just during the day, not just at the time of sunset, but all the time. Only then the quality will be pure and best. Similarly, if we want to produce good quality actions, then we also need to be exposed to the ilm, the nur, the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving all the time. When a person has iman, when a person has faith, when a person has knowledge, then it's not possible that he will just stay, closed in. He will not share that light with other people. It will not reflect in his actions. No. Once a person has accepted guidance, once a person has learned about something, then it will naturally come out in his actions. And we also need to see that all of these commands that we are learning, is it just going in our textbooks, in our juz, in our assignments, in our tests, or is it really coming into our actions? Because if it's not coming into our actions, then it is useless. It's going to be a hujjah against us, not for us. And we see that the example of this light is such that it conquers the darkness that surrounds it. It conquers the darkness that could be inside. So many times what happens? A person learns what to do, a person learns the Quran, but he's not able to implement. Why? Because of peer pressure, because of the fear of other people, because of their criticism, because of their pressures, because of what they say, because of how they look at you, because of how they mock at you, and sometimes it's your own fears. How am I going to go face people? How am I going to go do this? How am I going to go do that? Especially when it comes to the commands that are given in this surah. And the physical one of those commands is which one? Hijab. And these are the fears that people have. How am I going to face the world? But we see that when a person has this kind of faith, when a person gets nurun ala nur, then he has kawkabun durriyun. And durriyun is what? One that repels darkness. It repels the darkness. So when a person has this kind of light and hidayah, then he will conquer this darkness that surrounds him, that may be within him, and he will be able to act upon that knowledge. And many times it happens that we may know what we're supposed to do, and we may know that it's our responsibility to convey, but we have these fears. But we see that the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, يَكَادُ زَيْتُهَا يُضِيءُ وَلَوْ لَمْ تَمْسَسْهُ now. Even if nobody talks about it, even if nobody tries to convey it to the others, it's still evident in itself. It's still clear truth in itself. Allah does not need us. He does not need us to convey this message forth. But if it has really penetrated our hearts, if it has really kindled a light in our hearts, then it's not possible. It's not possible that we stay in darkness and we don't tell other people about it. Anything that you love, anything that hits you, what happens? Automatically you start sharing it with other people. Isn't it so? Automatically you start talking about it. It comes into your actions, it comes into your words, in the manner that you talk, in the discussions that you have with other people. Anything that hits you, it becomes a part of you. Similarly, when a person receives knowledge, when a person really accepts it, when there's nurun ala nur, then automatically it's going to shine forth. Then you don't have to say, oh, I find it very difficult. I can't do it. It's not for me. No, it is for you. It's for every single one of us. We'll listen to the recitation.
الله نور السماوات والأرض الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم